Hello, my name is Wesley Wallace, and I'm a student news journalist for Radford University's Tartan newspaper. Today, I had the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Bret Danilowicz. He is the Provost and Vice President of Academic Affairs at Florida Atlantic University and Radford University's upcoming 8th president. How are you today?
Wes, I'm doing very, very well. And I also want to thank you for taking your Friday afternoon to spend a little bit of time with me.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask you, on December 9th, 2021, Radford University's Board of Visitors announced that you were selected as Radford University's 8th president. Robert A. Archer, who was the rector of Radford University's Board of Visitors, spoke about your selection by stating, quote, "He is a proven leader and possesses the background and experience required to take us to the next level and into the future. He clearly demonstrated to both the search committee and the Board of Visitors his energy and commitment to higher education, as well as his lifelong goal of becoming a president of a major university such as Radford. Throughout your career in higher education, you have worked on college campuses throughout the United States in states like Georgia, Oklahoma, and Florida. Besides salary, location, and career mobility, what other factors influenced your decision to work at new college campuses, and what attracted you to Radford University?"
Wes, it's almost a complicated story because it goes back to when I was finishing my PhD and I wanted to go into research and teaching at universities. So we're going way back, okay?
Mhm.
I'm a few years older than you, if you didn't know that. When I started, I went to do a postdoc, which is usually an experience you do between getting a doctoral degree and then becoming a faculty member. And my wife and I, we moved to Canada. We were supposed to move to Australia, but we moved to Canada. Different story for another time. But what we realized when we moved to Canada is things were very, very different outside of the US, just extremely different. And we made the conscious decision to only apply for jobs outside of the US. To become, for myself to become a faculty member, and for her career, she could travel anywhere. So we ended up going to Ireland. And when I was in Ireland, I got the opportunity early on to move into administration, optionally, just part-time. And I found out I loved it. I loved working with students. Right then, I knew that I wanted a trajectory that was going to take me higher and higher into administration. And as I talked to colleagues, in Ireland and back in the States, one of the things they said was the more that you can move among institutions, you're gonna learn more culturally, how to try new things, how to adapt to the situation. And so that led to this movement where about every 6 to 8 years, I was moving among institutions. And it wasn't specifically that I had a desire to be in the state of Georgia or the state of Oklahoma. What I was looking for in each instance was a place that had challenges that I thought I could help solve, and where my wife and I could be part of the community. Those two things have always been very essential to us, and that has led to those opportunities. And I've also had the opportunity that as I've built a network of colleagues across the country, people have been helping me understand what the problems are at their institution, and helping even me thinking about the opportunity before the official ads had even gone out. So it's helped me kind of decide where I wanted to go in partnership with my wife. And that has brought me to Radford with, at this point, it's been 22 years in the dean's office or higher. It's gone by in the blink of an eye.
That's great. And I also wanted to ask you, prior to applying for the president position at Radford University, you were a prospective candidate for the president position at Marshall University in South Charleston, West Virginia. Although you weren't selected for the position, you spoke with Metro News about why you were attracted to the position by saying, quote, "I wanted to go to an institution where I could see some of the challenges that they had, and I had the skill set through time to solve those particular challenges. I'd be confident I would be able to make a difference here. As the upcoming president at Radford University, what challenges or obstacles is Radford University currently facing from your perspective, and what particular skills will you use to address these problems?"
Wes, thank you for that question. And one of the things is to be aware, I get to know the institutions from the outside first, right? What's available on the website. And now I'm starting to meet with a lot of the deans, vice presidents, and community members. So I'm learning more about what's happening on the inside. But from the outside, what I had seen is Radford has struggled to improve its retention and graduation rates for students. Those have been fairly static for an extended period of time. And I have always viewed that those retention rates are a reflection of how much connection that the university is able to build to its students. And I also believe that for institutions, the higher rate that we can retain the students and get them through to graduation, the more that those students are themselves going to be able to support the families or the communities that they've come from. So raising retention and graduation rates is absolutely critical. Every time a student goes and they're not able to be successful at the institution, that's a student that has in some ways lost time. They've invested some of their own funds, sometimes their family's funds, sometimes the state's funds into their education, and to not have a degree from that, it's just a disappointment. And it's not a number of students, it's every one of those students has a name, a community they've come from. So I have worked starting from Ireland, then in Georgia, Oklahoma, and now Florida to accelerate the retention rates of students, and then to try to keep them retained through the point of graduation. And one of the mechanisms that I will speak highly about from the day I start at Radford till the day I retire way down the road is undergraduate research, because it's something that I participated in as a student. In Ireland, where I was a faculty member, undergraduate research was actually a requirement for any students getting continuing a fourth year of their degree. They had to do undergraduate research. So my very first job, it was embedded in what I did. And then when I came back to the States, it wasn't embedded like that everywhere. That undergraduate research experience is an example of an opportunity that is high impact. We know it has a great learning outcome for students, and it helps retain and graduate those students. That's an example of a opportunity that Radford has for improvement. There's a wonderful undergraduate research office, but not as many students have that opportunity as we might be able to build for them. When I look at the city of Radford and the Radford University, I would love to see them more integrated than they currently are. I think there's a wonderful partnership that's been put in place, but the more that we can co-celebrate each other, it actually helps attract economic development to the area. And I'm very much a proponent of trying to find opportunities for students to be employed while they're in university in areas that are directly related to their future careers. So it doesn't matter if what the student's major is, the more that as a city and a university working together, we can attract companies that employ these students. It helps the students be retained, helps them graduate. You're seeing a common theme here, okay? And it helps the economic development of the community as a whole, because those students are spending more money in the community, and the corporations themselves or the companies themselves tend to expand in that type of a successful partnership. And those are just a couple of examples. I also feel that enrollment at Radford University has been a bit of a struggle the last couple of years. You know, the number of students that are coming to Radford is in a light decline each year. And I think that Radford itself, the university, does need to brand itself in such a way that the students that are there are excited to be at Radford, because it's a fantastic university and it really does have some of the best teachers that are around. And to be able to celebrate that with the future students for Radford, it will help them want to come to Radford and then stay at Radford through the time of graduation. That was part of the strategic plan, over the last couple of years that President Hemphill had led, and there's a lot more work to be done with that. And those are just a couple of examples of some of the, I'm not going to say necessarily challenges that are there, the opportunities for improvement at Radford University that I'd love to be vested in.
Absolutely. I also wanted to ask you, from 2012 to 2018, you served as the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences at Oklahoma State University. Yes. During the fall 2012 commencement reception at OSU, you spoke to arts and science graduates by stating, quote, "There are many people in the world who never got a chance to go to university. You have. There are many that tried, but they didn't succeed. You have. So you've got the responsibility to try to help improve the world. Your passion for giving back and helping to improve the world is somewhat connected to your experience studying abroad as a college student in South America and visiting the islands of both Trinidad and Tobago. During a 2012 interview with OSU's Ocali newspaper, you stated, "The trip reset my disposition on cultures all over the world. Here at Oklahoma State, students are exposed to all sorts of different origins of people because we have 46 different states represented here at the university. Trinidad was completely unlike anything else because I was immersed in ecology every day and was grateful enough to be invited into the society, communicating with the charm of the local people." So I wanted to ask you, what impact did both Trinidad and Tobago have on you as a college student? And do you think they had any influence on your decision to pursue a career in higher education?
Wes, first of all, congratulations on your research on me. You're finding up some things that I don't even know how you found them, but I'm wonderful. And it's great to bring back some of these memories again. When I went to Trinidad and Tobago, that was my first trip to a truly, I'll say truly different culture. I grew up in upstate New York, so we'd gone across the border to Canada. Canada is in some ways similar, but again, it was different once I started living there. But going to Trinidad and Tobago, it was different food. It was a different, even though people were speaking English, it was a different accent. It was a different school system. The whole structure was different around me. And people were wonderfully friendly to us as tourists. And everything from being in a tropical environment to not knowing everybody around me was just different. And you know, when I started college, you could think about, well, everybody around you is different. Most of the people came from the area that I was in. We had commonalities. Okay, going to Trinidad and Tobago was just a very different experience. In that, and I will tell you that my wife has also traveled extensively. Although she's a U.S. citizen, she was born in Iceland. Her first language was Scottish. So she was a Highlander from when she was born. So she's also got this kind of parallel journey through different experiences. What it made me realize is I appreciated understanding and celebrating difference. Mm-hmm. That was an early experience, but I had the opportunity to travel again, and I've gone to London also as an undergraduate. But through my research career, I had the opportunity to stay and do work in the area that I was in, or I could do work where I traveled. So I purposefully did work in the Indo-Pacific, in Hawaii. When I was in Europe, I could have done all my work in Ireland, but I did it in Iceland, in Sweden, in Norway, and in Spain. And in each instance, I was meeting new people. I was understanding why they were different from me, how they were different from me. And it actually, I think, made me a better person in terms of how I work with others and really celebrate difference. So I do believe that early trip was foundational for me in encouraging me to continue to expand my horizons and learning about others.
Absolutely. And I also wanted to ask you, pertaining to Radford University, according to Radford University's 2018 to 2023 strategic plan, the university says, quote, "Diversity remains an integral part of the university's current and future efforts. However, many Radford University students have spoken out publicly about the lack of support that they have received, specifically when seeing Black counselors and Black faculty who look like them. So I wanted to ask you, how do you view student diversity within the field of higher education? And although Radford University has made efforts to diversify its student body on campus, how will you recruit and retain more Black faculty members and counselors to the university?
Wes, this is not just a challenge at Radford University, as you're likely aware. This is a national challenge. Mm-hmm. And at Florida Atlantic, I'm at one of the 50 most diverse institutions in the entire United States. Yet we struggle also to have a diverse faculty member, diverse faculty body. So the data that I'm going to state nationally is also true at most institutions, and it's also true at Radford. When you look at the undergraduate population, it can be fairly diverse. When you look at the students that then become graduate students, there's a funneling where there's a lot less diversity in students of color at the graduate level. Similarly, there's a funneling to a postdoc, which remember is that kind of critical opportunity to become a faculty member in a lot of disciplines. And then ultimately when people of color become faculty members, there's not a lot of faculty that are receiving PhDs that are that have the potential to become faculty members of color. So what we've got is a pipeline issue. And the reason I can, that's the national data. At Florida Atlantic, it's the same problem. We're one of the most diverse institutions in the nation, and yet our undergraduate population, by the time they become graduate students, the diversity is half that it was. So it's a structural problem nationally, but the difficulty is that it's not that there's a common solution everywhere. The challenge is that each area is really specific to the area. When I was in Oklahoma, there's a large Native American population, but similar, not a large number of Native Americans have gone on to graduate school to go on to get PhDs, and then we're thinking about becoming the faculty there. So I think there's also a lot of misunderstanding about Oklahoma, what the state is like. And I knew my misunderstanding. I thought it was much more desert-like. And when I moved out there, it was actually green and lush and full of lakes. And I had no idea. So how do you take a kind of a misunderstanding of what the state is? Then there's not a lot of students of color that have become PhD capable. How do we, not PhD capable, PhD graduates, how do we go from there to create a more diverse faculty? So we there, working with the faculty, built a structure to create our own opportunity to attract faculty members to think about Oklahoma State. And what we did is we took some of our money, and instead of hiring faculty members, okay, and I recognize you're in the a program in the Department of Theater with also some entrepreneurship. So instead, for example, of putting faculty members back into entrepreneurship, what we did is took those same lines and advertised them as diversity postdocs. Remember, postdocs are that key step. You go through that experience to become a faculty member in many disciplines. So we advertised these as diversity postdocs with the commitment that for the individuals that we hired as postdocs, that when after a 2 or 3 year period, we would advertise a position in their field that they could apply for. It was not a promise that they would become a faculty member, but there was a promise that there would be an open line search that they could participate in. And it was making sure when they came there that they were competitive, but then they could basically be ready to apply. We had such a diverse array of faculty. By far, they were the most competitive searches that I'd ever seen. And that was very successful in recruiting faculty of color, well, potential faculty to apply to the university as postdocs and then to stay as faculty members. That was a solution for that specific university. Radford itself is a different place, both physically, culturally, and I have to actually work with the faculty and the students to better understand at Radford, how do we work with the students to convince more students, especially our students that are underrepresented, to continue on to grad school, and not just grad school that has the potential to make them future faculty members. It's got to be a strategy that is an incentive and also one that is professionally supportive of that pathway. I haven't spent that much time in Radford yet. I'm learning more, but that's a conversation that needs to occur. And it's really got to be specific strategies that go that way, that are specific to the university in the southwest of Virginia.
Absolutely. And I also wanted to ask you, when assuming your role as Radford University's president on July 1st, 2022, you plan on strengthening partnerships that the university has within the New River Valley. In December, you stated, quote, "My hope is that we can specifically add programs and types of programs, internships, externships, co-ops for students to provide companies an incentive to actually move to the Radford area. It sets our students up for success. And it sets our community up for success. And that's the type of relationship I love to see in a small town that has a large university. According to the United States Labor Department, the US economy actually added 199,000 jobs just this past month in December, and the unemployment rate fell to 3.9%.
Right.
As the labor market continues to evolve during the coronavirus pandemic, how will you make sure that Radford University students receive the necessary career success and financial security through various internship, externship, and co-op programs?
Internships are so invaluable to students because they help translate what they're getting in the classroom to kind of that real career experience, right, on the outside. So we know they're invaluable. We know when students later on go and they are seeking employment or that next career opportunity, an internship is one of the best ways they can validate that they've got the career skills that make them employable, that make them very that make the company want to hire them because they have that experience. Internships themselves can be challenging to set up because if you're a student from, let's just say that you are from Floyd, Virginia, and you're at Radford, but the internship opportunity is in New York City, that can be hard for some students, okay? Some students might be able to do that, but not everybody. So the more that we can create internships that are in the New River Valley itself, it actually makes it more accessible for students because internships have an array of pay that goes with them. It may make it affordable to some students, but really not affordable to others. So really getting those proximate to the institution are quite important. I strongly believe that internships, while very valuable, are going to become insufficient in time to attract and keep students and also to attract and keep companies. An internship is often a one-semester experience for students, but students, as an undergraduate, they're there for 4 years. And it can be expensive over a 4-year period of time. It doesn't matter if you've got scholarships, you've got Pell Grants, it can be tough to make ends meet. A one-semester internship isn't necessarily going to provide the extra support a student needs to make it through. So there's a historical model which is used more in engineering, which is called a co-op, and it's providing a student basically a serial internship, semester after semester working with the company. Mm-hmm. And there's more and more examples where universities are using these to start out students when they're freshmen in employment that's directly related to their interest, and they work on that over a series of years. So the student is gaining directly related employment experience, financial support that they need, and the company is not just getting 1 year, one semester work out of a student, they're actually getting a growth. They're seeing the growth trajectory of the student, and the student is working on more and more complex problems. Right now, you mentioned the labor market. One of the most competitive jobs out there for employers to find employees is computer science, because those students can go anywhere. Okay, same with IT. So try using that as an example, say, hey, we will be willing to work with you as a company. If you plant yourself on campus or near campus, we will work with our students to create this pipeline of employment where they want to work with you. You employ them, but you've also got to be here. Mm-hmm. That provides a physical proximity for students, making it easy for them both to work and have that work experience. As that company grows, it certainly applies or provides more opportunities for students to be doing internship, but it also provides opportunities for our faculty to work in an applied manner with the companies. And in some ways, that helps with the instruction in the classroom and can make it a little bit more applied and, again, career related. I personally believe that anytime we have the opportunity to take a curriculum and show how in the curriculum and year by year, it makes the student more career ready, it doesn't just help with internships, it helps with employment the whole time they're students there, and it makes it much easier for them to gain employment after they graduate. So those, Wes, that was maybe a little bit of a complicated walkthrough of what was a fairly simple question, but I hope it gives you some sense of what I'm thinking in that realm.
Absolutely, I definitely got it. And I also wanted to, while I was doing research for our interview today, your career journey, even starting back in childhood, was really interesting to me. As a child, learning was always encouraged at your home. In fact, when you were 10 years old, you announced that you wanted to pursue a career in marine biology. Uh, During your childhood, you actually grew up in Utica, New York. Your grandfather was a machinist who made parts for the first Apollo space flights, and your dad was a theoretical nuclear physicist who designed engines for NASA. So, what attracted you to marine biology, and why didn't you decide to pursue the footsteps of both your father and your grandfather to work at NASA?
Okay. Wes, did you talk to my parents before this call? um, so I'm second gen university because my dad was the first in family to go to university. And he didn't just go to university, he went on to get his PhD and become a rocket scientist. So I mean, he kind of set the curve for the family, right? And so I was born in Cleveland, which is where my granddad worked for NASA, which is where my dad worked for NASA. And so, you would think, impressionable child, family tradition of working for NASA, rocket scientist in the family, right? Marine biology. One of the things I always did with my dad, and I love my dad for this, is when we were growing up, about one weekend a month, we would go hiking in the Adirondacks. And the Adirondacks is the mountain range in upstate New York. You can think about that in Southwest Virginia as being kind of the Appalachians right around you. So we would go and we would hike, and it gave me an appreciation of the serenity, the value of nature. And for whatever reason, when I started watching television, I would gravitate towards nature shows, and in particular Jacques Cousteau. Okay, and again, it wasn't the silver tights, it wasn't, it was just that experience of being in nature. When we went to the beach, I think we got every couple of years, we would get a chance to go to a beach at least briefly. And I'd have my snorkel on as a little kid. And anytime I saw a fish, it was the best thing in the world. So early on, and yeah, I guess I was about 10, and I made that decision that I wanted to go on and figure out how to do research and kind of work in nature. So it was a very early decision for me. That never changed. And, so I knew what I wanted to do when I went to college. I knew that I then wanted to go on and get a PhD. I knew it. So my pathway started very early, which is atypical from a lot of students, right? Because many can come in undeclared, and my dad was never angry. He didn't ask me why, he was excited that I was excited about learning. And I think that was a great environment to be in. I tease him every now and then that, if I'd come home and have a challenge with math, he'd say, well, son, it's not rocket science, so, but it was that encouragement just to dream, to follow my passions, and just that I was excited about studying. That gave me the support that I needed, and it really gave me the freedom to become myself through this kind of avenue of marine research. It did translate later on that I am a very strong advocate of sustainability. That's something that I've tried to carry through from university to university. And at Radford University itself, that is, when I read the strategic plan, that is one of the two overarching themes at the university is sustainability, with 9 miles of riverfront in Radford City itself, the potential of the river campus. It may not be marine biology, but it is sustainability. And I greatly appreciate the efforts that the university is making in those areas. And I would love to continue to work with the faculty and the students in the community on such efforts.
Absolutely. And throughout your career back in December, when Radford University announced that you'd be serving as the eighth president for the university, you actually said that you've been working towards a presidency for pretty much your whole career. And
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, when working your way up to this position, what obstacles or adversities have you faced in your own career to get here where you are now? And how did you overcome them?
When I started in administration, I kind of did it accidentally, okay? And I had started doing things to support students back when I was in Ireland. It wasn't part of my job as a faculty member. It seemed to be the right thing to do for the students that I was working with. And I asked my department chair if it was okay if I set up a review structure for our graduate students because they weren't being successful in graduating time. And he was fine with it. So I set up the structure and our students started graduating more quickly. The dean walked into my office one day, and I'd never met the dean. And the dean said, I need you to become associate dean for the college. And I didn't know anything about administration. So I agreed conditionally. I wanted a year where I could back out to see if I liked it. Okay. And after that first year, I did like it. But at the end of that first year, I also went to the dean and I said, look, I'm enjoying this, but I know nothing about administration. I'd like to continue, but I don't want to screw up. So I said, would you support me if I decide to go back and get a master's degree in education management and leadership? He thought it was a brilliant idea. And so spent 3 years, working full time, being an associate dean, I kind of on top of my regular job and then going back to school. And it was a barrier in that I didn't know a lot about what I was getting into, but that degree structure and that continuing ed philosophy was really, really helpful in, I would say, preventing some future mistakes that I could have walked into. When I became a dean, I didn't realize how much of what I did was in some ways going to be related to business. From finance to marketing to IT management. And so again, I went back and I got another degree, continuing education, right? Lifelong learner. And I got an MBA, and it was specifically to try to make me a better administrator with this long-term goal of becoming a president and to help make mistakes. So I've tried always to stay in front of the challenges by going back and getting career advice. And also, Wes, I always try to ask people to tell me, and it didn't matter if I was an associate dean, dean, or provost, if I'm doing things that aren't as helpful as they could be, help me understand how I could be better. So I try, and I'm going to be doing the same thing as president. A lot of the people that I've been talking to, and I'm saying, okay, if you see me stepping in the role as president, and and I'm starting to act, please tell me where you see if I'm going off where you think I need to be going. By doing that, I have tried to prevent any bigger challenges from arising. So, when it comes to adversity, in administration, there's adversity on a daily, weekly, yearly basis. It just depends on the scale you're looking at. But I've always tried to work from an approach of prevention in going into this. And that's kind of some of the narrative of how I have trained to get ready for the presidency. But it's also been purposeful as I've moved from state to state. Each of the states I've been in has a large state network of universities. And I've got great colleagues of deans and provosts and presidents across all these state networks. And I regularly go back and forth with these groups when challenges come up on how they handled it at their institution. So I have no problem saying, I don't know the best way to do this. I need some help figuring this out. Will you help me brainstorm? And once again, it helps walk through adversity before the challenge gets too difficult to manage easily. So that's kind of the approach I've taken. And again, hope it gives you some insight into who I am and how I try to work.
Absolutely. And Dr. Danilovich, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us, Tartan, and to just tell us about your journey and your career and what you have to bring to Radford. We really appreciate it.
Great, Wes. Thank you for this time. And I know with COVID on, there's still a lot of opportunities for remote events. So I know you're in theater. If you happen to be participating in the production or an onstage or a who knows, whatever part of a theater production, it happens to be available online, send me a link because I want to watch it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, it's good meeting you. And I'll see you on campus fairly soon. Okay.
Have a great day.
You too. Okay. Bye-bye.